Let's hope this is the perfect USB-C hub for my Spectre 15. So for quite some time I struggled with finding a right one. I actually had a few USB hubs. I also thought about getting an eCPU, not an eCPU, but an eGPU, which basically means that you have an external graphics card attached to your notebook, which improves the graphics power when video editing and photo editing, for example. But these hubs didn't really work, and they actually caused errors. And these errors were up to the point where my hard drives completely failed because they deconnected all the time. So now let's hope in there is the solution for my problems. So first of all, we have this here. Dear customer, thank you for your purchase. This is a cable. And the next thing is this here, an ANKER hub. So this is how it looks. This is the front, and it doesn't really focus on the front. And this is the back. It's ANKER Series 6, and it's a USB-C hub. So it's the ANKER 655 USB hub, and it is simultaneously a travel USB hub and also a normal USB hub, you could say. So now this is my unpacking knife, and you also might wonder why I don't have my usual Zoom H6, because I actually want to show you a few things and connecting it to the notebook, and therefore I will need to move the phone around. But let's now open the hub. And why not get a Thunderbolt hub? This is another question you might ask yourself. So there is Thunderbolt and USB-C. Basically both use the USB-C standard, which is just the normal plug you are probably at this point in time used to. So that's kind of the symmetrical plug you're used to. Before, there was actually micro USB, which was the old plug, which for example you can see on something like headphones that are still existing. So let's actually try to focus on the headphone. Yes, it kind of works, but it also kind of doesn't. So nevertheless, this was USB-C and micro USB. Then basically a lot of companies sat together and wanted to find a new standard. And this standard is the form factor of USB-C, what you know as USB-C. But there are different specifications. So the normal USB specification, so USB is basically kind of an institution that standardized computer ports. And now they made different certificates or different specifications, but also a different institution called Thunderbolt made these kind of together with Apple. So now what you have is you have the USB-C form factor, which is then sometimes used for the Thunderbolt specification, which goes up to 40 gigabits per second. And sometimes you have something like this, which only has the USB specification, which goes up to 10 gigabits per second. So now we have something like this in here. And I also am realizing maybe I should switch to a normal video where the portrait background is not activated, or I just remove the blur, which now means everything should be sharp. So now we have this hub, and this is kind of a vintage style hub. It looks kind of like a vintage camera. And the first nice thing about this hub is that we have this plug, which is angled. So in theory, now if I attach it to my notebook, which we will do shortly, then I have a hub that is attached to my notebook. If this is my notebook, I can attach it and then just have the hub in the back of the notebook and don't have to worry about the cable on the side. Because I'm right-handed, this means my mouse is also usually on the right side. This would benefit in terms of having no cables. The other thing I wanted to do for quite some time was to only plug in one single plug as a workstation whenever I put my notebook onto my gigantic standing desk, and therefore have my monitor connected, which I will also show you shortly. So now, what is this hub about? It's basically not the best hub you can get from ANKER, theoretically at least, because there is a bigger hub which has 11 ports. This one doesn't. What this one has is it has SD and micro USB. So the micro USB often is also called TF. Then it has two USB-A ports, which are specified for, let's see. So these are 3.2. So the version is 3.2. There are also 3.1, and usually if you have a blue port, this means it's either 3.0 or something newer, so 3.1 or 3.2. So now what we also have in here is we have a very unique leather design. So this is apparently leather, or at least the design seems to be leather, which is something I didn't really opt for because I just wanted this hub. And what we also have, SD and micro USB, and they both go up to 312 megabytes per second, which I can't really compare because I don't know read and writing speeds of, for example, the internal micro USB I have in my Spectre. So now it also has 4K at 60 Hertz, up to 60 Hertz, so that's basically a newer HDMI standard. I only have HDMI here, and I don't have DisplayPort. The bigger one would have had DisplayPort, but I only have one monitor, and this has HDMI. Apparently, in the future, I thought, at least that was kind of a thinking of mine, in the future, what if you could just rent a workstation and then you would have an external monitor and things like these, and then what if the workstation then has DisplayPort? Or if you go traveling and you actually have access to an external monitor, you basically want to have the one single hub that does it all. And simultaneously is also a travel hub. And simultaneously is also the hub you use on your workstation at home. So I think with no further ado, let's first maybe go into the other things. We have a headset input, which means it's a TRRS input, at least I am guessing this, because you have basically the stereo headphones and then additionally the microphone. We also have an LED here, apparently. What we also have is these two USB-A, the micro USB, then we have an Ethernet, and this is one of the main reasons I had actually to get a hub right now, because I'm in a location where the internet is just too bad for me, because I upload a lot of stuff to the internet and I only have 5 to 10 gigabits of upload, at least with the Wi-Fi router I can connect to. What it also has is the power delivery in, which you then actually theoretically can use to import or input up to 100 watts of power, and then to connect up to 85 watts of power to your notebook, which is probably enough for my Spectre 15. So let's take the phone and let's actually show you around. So here we have my workstation. It's a little bit messy because I just unpacked these things. And now the first step is to now connect the hub. Currently what I have here is I have an HDMI port for the monitor connected, and also the normal barrel plug my notebook actually has, which probably has up to 100 watts of power. It's even 135 watts of power. So basically, if you have something like this here, which is a charger, which also has power delivery output, and this power delivery output is, I believe, up to 60 watts. So this is the Satechi charger you find on Amazon. There is also a version which has an even bigger output, and here you can see it's Satechi. And this charger would then power my hub, at least in theory. In the past this didn't work out so well because this doesn't provide stable enough USB power delivery, which is a bummer. So what we also can do right now is take a look at the packaging again. And that's basically it. ANKER 655 USB-C hub, 8-in-1. I also quickly show you basically what the description on Amazon is about. So here we have the normal Amazon page. We have ANKER 655, 8-in-1, 100 watts power delivery. There is also an option for charcoal gray, which I didn't opt for. What you can see here in my list already is that we have also here the 180 watts Power Pro charger by Satechi. So maybe I will upgrade to something like this, or this 100 watt charger by also Satechi. And I also looked for a cable because I needed actually an extension. So what we also can see is here are a few other workstations by ANKER. These are actually power delivery, not power delivery, but Thunderbolt. And additionally, this is the biggest hub ANKER offers, which is the ANKER 565. And I mean, yeah, well, it offers 3 USB-A, but these 2 USB-A are not the higher USB 3.0 standard. And that's a bummer because I actually have 4 hard drives, and on the road need at least, so they are powered via USB, which means they take a lot of power, and therefore, and also transfer speed, and I just didn't want to go with a hub where I could natively connect those. It additionally has, so we can actually take a look at this. So this was my other, basically the other thing I took a serious look at. It has HDMI, 4K 60 Hz, DisplayPort, the same specifications, USB power delivery input, also Internet gigabits, and audio, and also 2 USB-C, so 1 USB-A, which you just saw. Then we have 2 USB 2.0. I mean, who needs 2 USB 2.0? And then we also have an additional USB-C port. So the idea in general, so here is me again. The idea in general is that on a USB-C port hub, it seems that 3 USB-A ports seem to be not an option. So basically every serious tech manufacturer doesn't offer a USB hub that has 3 USB ports that are actually blue. And this is kind of a thing I searched for because I wanted to connect all my hard drives natively, but usually I can't, I guess. So in the past I had different hubs by basically generic manufacturers from China, and they were branded differently. One was, I can't remember the names even, and both didn't really work out, and they caused even file damage to my files, which resulted in me selling the old drives with basically the corrupted files, and I didn't really know if they in the future would be able to store and hold properly my normal files. Because a file damage is, or a hard drive failure is something that takes hours and hours and hours to recover. So therefore, I wanted to have a hub that actually had at least 2 USB-A ports. That meant I could connect my main drive and also the backup of the main drive, therefore make a backup also on the road, and then I would connect the other 2 sets of drives, and therefore I would have a full setup also on the road without my monitor and without my USB, which I currently have connected, as you are seeing here, to the back here. And in the back I have these 4 main drives, which are basically connecting via USB-C, because these are USB-C drives, but this was the reason I got them in blue. I just put them off, I turned them off real quick, then I can actually show you. And so I have these 4 USB-A inputs. Additionally, I have my Zoom H6 connected as a USB interface, which automatically is also powered through the hub. And I have a connection for my phone. I actually searched quite a while for this ICBox hub because I wanted to have all the ports I would ever need in terms of USB-A, but I also wanted to be able to power all of my drives through the hub. And usual normal hubs just don't have enough power to power 5 terabyte drives, 4, 5 terabyte drives even. So now we actually try the hub itself, and therefore I will maybe switch to this option. And in an ideal scenario, I would now connect this hub and could unplug this, and this. So let's first try to connect the hub, and then I try to connect the external power from my Satechi. So what you're also experiencing right now is the idea I had. So basically on the side of my notebook I have my normal USB-A legacy port, you could say, and then I have 1 USB-C port, and in the back, angled basically, here, hidden under the tape I have, is a second one. And both of these are Thunderbolt 40 gigabits theoretically, so I could also connect. So now what you're already seeing is the idea setup I hope for. I just plug this in, and what I now can do is that I can move my mouse around as I like. And previously I had this USB-A standing out here and basically cluttering my desk. And now it's clean. I connect this. I even can connect it like this. But this doesn't really work because the plug is too thick. Therefore, I cannot connect it with having my display basically out. So then I have one option left. So the next step now is to connect my HDMI. This should probably not be the biggest problem, even without external power. So I take the HDMI, and now let's just try connecting it. Of course, this won't be the final setup. the final setup will probably be that I have the port up here. I actually can maybe just set this up here, and then I can still talk. So ideally, I would have this up here, but as you already can see, this is too short. This is the reason in the other package I already showed you, I have an extension cord. Be aware that sometimes these extension cords mean that then you cannot really connect all the functionality of a USB-A hub, which again is a problem. Also, if you want to have a Thunderbolt hub, so this is 1 meter, they also had 20 centimeters, which would have been enough for me in this setup, but well, but this is the more universal one I can also use for something else. Maybe I will additionally order the 20 centimeters one, because then I could just place it here, then 20 centimeters to my notebook, and also when on the road, this is probably enough. So the risk also was with getting basically a bigger one, a longer one, that the longer the cable is, the less likely it is that it has the full functionality of the USB hub still. So now here we have this plug, and let's now connect the hub. Also, if I now connect this angled hub to this here, I mean, that's not really ideal, because now you have this connection that basically cannot really be bent. But nevertheless, this is now what I'm going for. So probably it even makes more sense to have it like this, because then I have the ports on the side, and in the front there is my notebook, obviously. So now, as a next step, let's try to connect my USB-A hub. So first, on the right side, we have this one. Additionally, the Ethernet, I also already have an Ethernet cable from my router I previously told you about. And let's now connect the Ethernet cable, because my notebook doesn't have a native Ethernet port, which is quite of a hassle. And also, there were some issues with previous hubs and USB 3.1 or 3.0, because the Ethernet port seems to disrupt the USB-A functionality somehow. And this was a known problem, a known issue for quite a long time. And the previous manufacturer of my hub, that didn't really work out that well, didn't have a solution, and therefore I was stuck with basically not really having a good USB-C hub, and also not being able to connect to Ethernet, which is quite dumb if you think about it. Not really dumb, but just very unfortunately. So now let's connect my normal USB-A hub to one of the USB-A ports. And additionally, if I now just want to connect an additional USB-C stick, I don't have to use my normal USB-A hub in the back, but what I then instead can just do is connect it to here. Or, because the USB-A hub on my notebook is now also free, I just can connect a USB stick to my notebook, which I cannot if this is attached to my notebook. So now I even have an SD card reader, a full-blown SD card reader, because my notebook actually only has a micro SD, which is a problem, but I already found a solution. I just buy micro SDs from now on and basically have the adapter in the camera itself. So now it's connected. A bummer again with this hub, it's not black. And I try to make all things black, because then they are not distracting. And you can actually focus on the things you want to focus on. So now I have everything connected apart from the power. And let's see what works with the power, without the power, and what doesn't. So let's go into another setup again. So as you can now see, the monitor seems to work. So when it comes to traveling and just using your hub without even a USB-C connection, a USB-C power delivery input, this one seems to already be working. So now let's dive into the settings where I can actually access the Ethernet. So with the Ethernet, there seems to be a problem. At least it doesn't connect automatically, which I kind of was used to. And there is also not the pop-up sign up that I actually have to do if I connect via the given Wi-Fi here in this apartment. So therefore, I can't really show you the Ethernet. Let's move on to the next thing. When it comes to the drives, there seems to be a problem. So they are not properly connected, because usually they have different names, creative file, and things like these. So the connection here also seems to not work without the connection from the charging hub. So now, as a final try to connect the charging hub and see what is different then. So we now connect the cable, and let's see if at least the hard drives connect properly. An issue that would maybe, or something that would maybe resolve this if we deconnected the extension and just connected it directly, but I don't quite know about this, and also I need the extension because otherwise I cannot put it here. A major issue is probably the fact that I previously turned the USB-A hub off. So now let's disconnect the charging cable again, and let's see if the drives actually connect with the USB hub, but when the USB hub is actually turned on. And it seems to work, as you cannot see really as of now, but now you can see. So all the hubs, all the things are connected now. It still shows me 2 ghost USB drives, which I don't really know what to do about, but maybe they will go in the future. What I also didn't deconnect until now was the barrel plug. So let's now try to do this. Here is the barrel plug. And now everything just went out. So basically the power of my notebook is just gone. And my notebook just turned off, which is probably not a really good sign, which means the battery had some issues, or I don't know. Because usually if you unplug just the power, it turns into the mode where it uses the battery. So what I now did is I basically am rebooting my notebook, and I connected the barrel plug again because apparently it doesn't currently work. There were some battery issues with the previous versions of the Spectre before. This is the HP Spectre 15, and it's the 2019 version with 2 terabytes of hard drive, SSD, and also 1050 Ti. Of course, the notebook version of the 1050 Ti. So the question now is, what will happen if I have connected everything as I will also have in the future? So basically just without the barrel plug, but I think I cannot really unplug the barrel plug again. Maybe I will still try it, but I still want to see if the LAN actually works, which is also something I cannot really probably figure out during the making of this video. So probably I will make a full-blown review of this. This is more of an unboxing in first try. I mean, this is ANKER. This is the best hub I got. I also in the past tried to avoid, or because of my experience with these crappy hubs in the past, I wanted to avoid in the future having a manufacturer that I couldn't fully trust, and it always could be the hub itself and not some other issue. Because I also had these hard drive issues, well, this led me to just going with ANKER and just seeing what ANKER had to offer. ANKER is now kind of an established Chinese maker of charging products and also of USB products. What also might cause a problem in the future is that if you have a USB-C interface, not a USB-C, but a USB interface connected, like the Zoom H6, and here I have usually my headphones connected on the other side, is that it might cause issues because now the USB hub also has a microphone out. Not really a microphone, but a headphone out. And since my monitor also has a headphone out, you basically now have multiple options to actually put out the audio. So basically you have the headphone jack in the notebook, you also have the headphone jack in the hub, you also have the headphone jack in the monitor, since HDMI also transmits audio, and then you have the out in the microphone itself. So therefore you have several options, and in terms of managing these in the past, there were different programs. So Windows is quite decent now, managing audio, and also HP, so my laptop manufacturer also has, it turns out my notebook is now updating, and 30% are already done, and I now forgot the previous sentence. Yes, HP also offered an audio solution. It's called Bang & Olufsen Audio Control. By the way, HP has a really good speaker. This notebook at least. So now my notebook is online again, and I will again try to deconnect the barrel plug in terms of power. So again, this is a hardcore test, and if my notebook fails again, I have no notebook anymore, since it has then a serious issue. So now let's unplug this plug again and see what happens. 3, 2, 1. Wow, it worked. So that's good. So let's now see what is connected. And it seems here we have the charging connected. So therefore what you actually not can see, is that here we have the normal charging symbol, which is good because it means it charges. The network still doesn't work. I probably have to work on this. What also works maybe are the USB drives. They seem to work. We still have these two ghost drives. I cannot identify. Maybe these two ghost drives actually stem from the two USB ports, or they are basically these two micro SDs or SDs and micro SD inputs. My monitor also seems to work quite fine, no latency issues or anything like that. And now I think I just might have found a good hub. So what I can actually do is put it here. So basically the cord goes out in the back, and then I have connected it here, as you already saw, and it's connected to my notebook here. What I now additionally can do is, because this is a much flatter thing, I can deconnect the whole thing and connect it in the back on the angled part, which gives me an even cleaner setup. So basically, if I'm entering or if I'm also leaving, I can just go here, and also this basically leads me already to the unplugging. I don't have to search for it, and I can go in here, unplug the thing, and take my notebook on the go into my backpack, which is something I wanted to have for years at this point in time, and which also seemed to be possible with notebooks like these and hubs like these and Thunderbolt. At least theoretically. Practically, I just struggled with finding a good solution. Also previously I just wanted to have a VGA port because of my previous monitor, but VGA is now out of date and I only have HDMI at this point in time. So now, additionally, what we could also check is the out of the headphone, but I probably will not include it in this video anymore, since it probably will just work as you would expect from a known brand like ANKER. So therefore, results, I now finally found a solution, and this just seemed to be a problem that just didn't go away. It seemed to be a problem throughout the last years. Basically in 2017, that's 5 years ago, I decided to buy a very good notebook in order to basically start my kind of creative career before, not really creative career, my kind of side thing here, which I have running. So previously I just edited files and things like these and constantly had project crashes, and notebooks just were this thick, or at least this thick, and well, it just didn't work. So I bought the first HP Spectre, and I thought it would be a very good solution. It was a very good solution because the HP also has a pen and it also is touch, so it's basically the ultimate creator notebook, at least when it comes to Windows. There is also a bigger version of this one here. It's the Pro version. It's called, what is it called? Something with Pro, also made by HP. And there is also the XPS lineup of Dell, and these are basically the major big options when it comes to having a full-blown creator notebook, I could say. So now what I have is a travel hub that is simultaneously my normal hub, that has very efficient or practical outputs. So basically have it flush. It's also symmetrical. It also is symmetrical in the back together with this other thing. And well, I think I now have a solution. What I have not a solution for at this point in time is the Ethernet. So basically the promise was, or at least the idea was, if I would connect an Ethernet port, then I had better upload and download speeds, which then would improve my workflow. Also, the 1 meter extension I showed you seems to work just fine. So therefore I am now a little bit more flexible when it comes to the positioning on the road, for example, or also somewhere else. And I don't have to rely on 20 centimeters of cable, which would have been the other option of the cable. There also was a 2 meter option, but I went with the 1 meter in order to have kind of the best flexibility, and also to maybe use it for another purpose, as to just connect the hub. So therefore, I think that's the end of this first impressions video. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it kind of works. I also guess the better hub, so not the better, but the bigger hub also would have worked, the 6.5. So this is the 655, the other one is 565, as you saw previously in the Amazon listings. And now I think that's the end.